the U.S. women's national team is like bred to face adversity. I feel like we're doing that. I feel like we're like weathering this storm. I'm really excited to see how the team responds to this little bit of adversity, this little bit of external criticism. This is like a huge moment and a huge opportunity to kind of continue on with the journey of the U.S. women's national team and say, we're just going to keep going. We're just going to keep pushing and we're going to get through one game at a time.
It's Rog in the early morning hours of the 1st of August, a day filled already with a strange, unprecedented brew of emotions for all who love the US women's national team. Anticipation, some confusion, ultimately huge relief, and some Rose Lavelle tears, which honestly break my heart. The good news, the United States women have just qualified for the knockout rounds of the 2023 World Cup in second place in Group E for excruciating. The Netherlands topped the group. We just witnessed a squeaky bum time of a game against a, has to be said, truly audacious, undaunted Portugal. The game ended 0-0, just. And we'll now most probably have to do the hard miles in the gauntlet side of the tournament bracket where Sweden and Japan await. We will break it all down and we'll do it live here on the mighty AMP. And thank God I'm not here alone. I'm here with my partner in all things Women's World Cup 2023, the joy of my life, World Cup winner, greatest showman obsessive, the serial mommy, the Australia to my Canada. She and I have just lived out every moment of this game from Eden Park in Auckland and are somehow still standing. It's the great Sam Mewis.
Oh my goodness, Rog. I'd say good morning, but we've been up for like 4 hours already.
We have. You are hardcore and I love it. Sam, up top, emotions, how are you feeling?
I mean, I feel like, I'm just going to say, I feel like I am still on this team. And so I am taking the approach of like, we've made it through. Like, it's fine. Like, I know everybody's freaking out, but I'm just kind of like, drop it, learn from it, move on. The next game is the only one that matters.
I've just, one of the many joys of watching these games with Sam is that just spigot of optimism with which she approaches life. I'm not saying it's rubbing off on me, but if just 1% is the legacy of the time we have together, I will be a changed human being. But let's start with a quick toast by raising, yes, this is already my third first Bud Light of the day, to Australia in general and the magical Sam Kerr in particular. The Matildas stormed into their must-win yesterday against Olympic gold medalist Canada and utterly obliterated them 4-0 without Sam Kerr, who said she was fit but didn't come on, and there was a week to rest that calf strain heard round the world. And Sam is such a special human. Honestly, others in her position would sulk or fall apart. I know I would, but she's just been a joyous presence, even off the field, acting as the water boy for much of yesterday's game. Now she's got a week to rest up, to take the field. This World Cup deserves her on it. To health, to happiness, to a speedy return, Sam. Honestly, Sam Mewis, this tournament needs Australia to go deep, right, as hosts?
Well, yeah, I think that would be awesome. I think everybody was a little bit sad to see New Zealand go out in the group stage after their incredible opening win and record-breaking win for New Zealand football. But having Australia make a deep run would be so much fun. I think it's always fun when the host nation does well. Everybody loves Sam Kerr. So I'm sending her good luck and good vibes and healing vibes as well, and wishing Australia luck. I think it would be so much fun.
Everybody loves Sam Kerr. That is a life truth. Everybody loves Sam Mewis. And Sam Mewis, we meet here on this day of destiny. US-Portugal. Jose Mourinho's women. Full on fado in the face. The Seleção das Quinas. But this was a different US lost group game experience than we've ever had to really live through. Last World Cup, we obliterated all comers, scored in the opening 12 minutes of our first 6 games. We didn't know we had it so good. This tournament, well, it's been a slower burn. That opening round 3-0 game against Vietnam. Oh, the hungry, defiant Netherlands, who really, thanks to Lindsay Horan, just bailing us out. You know, we got away with that 1-1 draw, and this was an unusual position. We did enter with a hint of vulnerability. We knew win and we're through, draw in the same. But But I'd watched giant Germany be clipped by that organised, audacious Colombia over the weekend. And before the game, I didn't want to say, the dark words. I didn't want to manifest darkness because I know you will not stand for it. You were annoyed at me before the game when I predicted in our Twitch prediction. I said, I think it's going to be 2-1 USA. And the look on your face, I felt like I disappointed you. You couldn't even conceive of a dark scenario, could you?
No, I really couldn't. And I think just the general feeling around this game for me was like, this is time. Like, we have waited a little bit longer than usual to fire on all cylinders. And this game was the game for me. Going into it, I was like, there is no chance we lose. We're definitely going to win. My prediction was 3-0. I felt really, really, really good yesterday and this morning about this game.
I know. I said to you, wouldn't you bite my arm off for a 2-1 win before the opening whistle? You were like, no. And I love you for it. I mean, that is why this is an incredible statistic. This is the first time in 16 years that the US women had faced even the prospect of going home during the group stage. You couldn't even conceive of it. But the Netherlands were playing Vietnam simultaneously. We wanted a win. We wanted to come top of this group. We wanted to avoid kryptonite Sweden. We talked about how in the pre-game, we'd find out if this World Cup could follow the vibes of 2015, where we grew into the tournament tactically. But the big question going into this one was, what had Coach Vlatko derived from the first two games? And the US entered, the lineup. It was really clear that Vlatko had been watching our Twitches during the game. Because he not only realized what time is it, it's Rose Lavelle o'clock, she started, but just joyously, emotionally, rapturously, he'd unleash your friend as a starter, your podcasting partner, one of the most prolific club strikers and scorers of our generation, Lynn Rainey Williams. What did you feel watching this wonderful human being, even better footballer, grinning through a warm-up? Sam Mewis, describe the emotions for reals.
Well, I was so psyched to just see her beautiful little face out there, especially in the warm-ups, to see her smiling, to see her out there, just knowing that she was going to get her chance to go make her World Cup debut. I'm so proud of her, and I felt such confidence in her. I think at this stage in her career, she's been through kind of everything. She's been through not making rosters. She's been through being MVP of the league. She's been through injury. She's been through kind of every up and down that you can face. And so to come into this game, to get her first start in a World Cup, I just knew that she was prepared, and I knew that she was ready and that she would do a great job. And I felt so proud of her and excited for her.
Portuguese manager Francisco Neto, it's fascinating. He changed almost half the team that beat Vietnam 2-0 in their last game. Rotation. He wanted to keep his team fresh for this one. He really fancied the opportunity to have a go. And that was almost like an omen. The United States, though, it's got to be remembered, they opened so brightly. First 5 minutes, it was like a Mentos being dropped into a Diet Coke right out of the final whistle. The US were pumped. Becky Sauerbrunn, just before kickoff, screamed, Lynn Williams going to mess up some people, which I love. You said, I want a Lynn Williams goal inside 30 seconds. And we almost got one. But that adrenaline, God, lasted about as long as the X sign on top of Elon Musk's Twitter building. It felt like Portugal were most certainly not parking the bus. They played us into traps on the flanks. We looked predictable. We couldn't control the midfield. They kept buccaneering down the wings audaciously. The wings that Sam Mewis, in her subway keys to the game, had demanded that we dominate. 25 minutes in, passes completed, Portugal 97, US 55. What world are we living in? Meanwhile, the Netherlands were slapping in banger after banger after banger against Vietnam. They were clearly top of the group, like within 3 minutes. What did you see? Because it felt like almost the US were shocked in that first half at their opponent's temerity.
Yeah, I don't even really know where to start. I think, like you said, the first few minutes, like maybe first 10 to 15 minutes, we were kind of on fire. We came out strong, but it was clear from the get-go that the game was open and that Portugal wasn't sitting back and parking the bus and staying deep. Again, my comments on the width, I feel silly that I keep saying it. And maybe I'm missing something, but I think in the first half, after that first 15 minutes kind of wore off, I think we still missed that domination out wide, just the ability to create those chances from wide areas. But Portugal looked great. I mean, I want to give them a lot of credit. I think they were a great team. I think they had a great game plan. We had some really close opportunities. I think Lynn had a few chances. Alex had a few chances, which was really exciting to see. And had we put one of those away early, the game could have been totally different. And my 3-0 prediction might have come true. But the first half was honestly like pretty even. I think people's reaction is really, really strong. But we did create some chances, and with a few adjustments, I think could be great.
I love how you're backing up the Sam Mewis game prediction.
I know.
Sam Mewis,
never let it die.
Never wrong, occasionally incorrect. But I love that case that you're making. Look, I mean, Vlatko was asked about pressure and the players feeling it, and he said they feel none. But the longer this game went on, it did feel like the United States were inside their own heads. And you've been in games like this. By the way, Sam Mewis, a lovely moment before the game when we were doing research at like 2 o'clock in the morning. She's like, what happened last time we played Portugal? And then she Googled it. The US won 1-0. Who scored the winner, Sam?
I did.
Sam Mewis.
I know.
Who didn't even remember what the goal was. We had to look that one up, which is genuinely just a joyous statement. Sam Mewis can remember exactly what Dr. Joe did at university. What course was that?
He has his PhD in Recreation and Leisure Studies from the University of Utah.
Yeah. And then she says, go Utes. But
go Utes. But I do remember now.
Can't remember winning goals. Kind of, which I love about you. You like just utterly negate your own contributions to the world and are fascinated by those of other human beings like Dr. Joe, who's possibly the doctor that I would least like bending over me if I was in a moment of medical trauma. Just can you imagine passing out and just the last thing you see is Dr. Joe leaning over you saying, "Don't worry, I'm a doctor." And the last words of it, "No, not him." But getting back to it, mentally, Lallis had kept crowing before the game. We've faced Portugal 10 times. We've beaten them 10 times. We've scored 39 goals, conceded 0. This shouldn't be close. But this was a very different opponent. This was tactically astute. There was a game plan, a collective fist. What goes through your head when this is happening and you're all on the field shouting your adjustments player to player? You've talked about how much space the US were giving up, allowing their opponents to turn into. And before the World Cup, you talked about in these moments, in these games, you can occasionally feel in that midfield just panic decision-making kick in.
Yeah, I think especially just in that first half, there was a few moments where we saw the team kind of come together and communicate. And I think Becky and I were just saying sometimes people in different positions will notice different things on the field. So oftentimes as a midfielder, I'll be telling a forward who's playing near me what I need from them or what I think looks on, and they'll share the same information back. So it's kind of that second wind of a game plan during the game when you figure out, are they doing exactly what we were told that they were going to do? Are they playing that formation? Are the same tactical things that were in our game plan on? And you kind of just have that communication again as a team, whether if there's an injury or some kind of a break, and just find yourself kind of re-examining the game from inside of it instead of beforehand.
God, it would get worse for the United States of America. 39 minutes, a second yellow, a suspect second yellow, a ghost second yellow, but it doesn't matter. Still a second yellow for the mighty Rose Lavelle. A foul on Dolores Silva. She will now be suspended for the round of 16 game. And in that moment, in that very moment, you saw the recognition by her that she will now sit out that game. You saw that agony in her eyes, Sam Mewis. We were just so gutted for her in that moment. I
know. I still am so gutted for her. I think when you think back, the yellow today was so soft. I'm like so done with the ref for that. Like I wish they could review it and take it back. I think it's so stupid and I'm very upset about it. But then when you think back to her first yellow, that was a moment we all talked about as a moment that changed the game in the Netherlands game. She came on the field, she committed a foul, and our energy went like, oh yeah, we're the US. So part of me has to be like, that one was a great response and a great reason to get a yellow. The one today, I think, is like ref subjectivity, and I'm mad about it and annoyed about it, but I'm so disappointed for Rose. You could see how upset she was about it. I wish that they could just review it and take it back, and I know that's not how the game works, but I also wish that the yellow cards reset right now going into the knockout rounds. I wish we could just change the rules for Rose because she just deserves to be out there. So I'm
Change
bummed.
the
I'm just
rules
bummed
for
her.
Rose. God, that's a political campaign promise that I could get behind. Change the rules for Rose. It's rational. It's logical. God bless you, Rose Lavelle, you incredible human being. You know, I truly believe that if the US are to come unstuck in this tournament, we've got to let the players not from Colorado know that they too can score goals. And there was a great chance for the mighty Lynn Williams right at the end of the half that had us up in our seats. Oh, we've got to get players from the other 49 states confident, Sam Mewis.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think one goal can kind of change somebody's whole perspective and whole confidence. I think it's tough. Coming right in, like there's obviously a lot of bodies in front of the goal. You have just really 1 second. Their margins are so small to score a goal, to make a mistake, to win a game. That's why this is the World Cup. It's so important. That's why it means so much to score a goal at the World Cup or win a game or win the whole thing, is because these margins are just so small. And I think we were close a few times. It's just, this is the level where close isn't quite enough, but we have another chance. So hopefully we get it done in the future.
We have life. We have life. There was a second half. There was a surreal fire alarm going off outside the stadium for the first 5 minutes, which made the whole experience more eerie and even more doom laden on the symbolic level. We were joined on our Twitch by a remarkable bloke, Jonas Eidval. He's the Arsenal women's coach. We were a ball of emotion at this point. He came on and he was very funny. He's like, it's a popcorn game, he called it, which I love. He's like, I'm a neutral, was his message. You guys are all living and dying. I'm a neutral. And he just kind of sat there. He also had this weird camera angle. He was shooting up, so he looked even more kind of like a lofty god in heaven speaking down to us. And he was talking very tactically, really rationally. It was not the time for rationale. Didn't want to hear a single thing he said, but he said, positionally, the US had not been set up right in that first half. He corrected it in the second half at the beginning, but he felt that in the first half, the US had control build up, but they couldn't play through the Portuguese diamond. Second half, they lowered their pressure, invited Portugal onto them, and then started to thrive in that early period in transition. There was a flickering, just a bolt of optimism and joy, but that wore off. And by 60 minutes in, the US were a picture of tension. You could see it every time the match director would cut to a close-up, just etched on every player's face. Vlatko threw on Rapinoe, who you will remember from many, many Google ads. And Becky talked about the fear that the sight of Rapinoe coming on can ignite in other teams. The game still felt so bloody hand-to-hand. A rock fight, one of you said. And US fans started to beg Vlatko to change the game with substitutes. Jill Ellis famously used to use all available substitutes in every single World Cup game. Theo Lloyd Hughes on Twitter had a great tweet. To be honest, I think Vlatko's struggling on the sideline next to Portuguese coach Francisco Neto, because he's wearing the same outfit but wearing it a lot better. 70 minutes in, Vlatko had still not brought on more substitutes. Obviously, Twitter, always rational, always calm, going wild. But, 3 straight games in, many of these players playing the full load, they must have been shattered, right? Fresh legs to finish off games.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the fresh legs that came on did make a huge difference. I think anytime you're playing 3 games, 3 high-stakes games, of course you're going to be a little bit tired. The subs that came on, I thought changed things in a positive way. I noticed maybe a little bit of a tactical change. We were playing some more early balls in behind the back line. We saw that from Pino, from Lynn a little bit. I think that was helpful, kind of to just create space and spring the forwards in. It was a little bit unexpected, and Portugal was caught facing their own goal and chasing backwards a few times. Alex almost got in. And then the other substitution that I think helped, and this is something that Jonas talked about in his tactical analysis, which was so clever and smart, was going to that kind of double pivot. I think Emily Sonnet came on for Lindsay and dropped in next to Andy Sullivan. And what Jonas had been saying was the two wide players in Portugal's diamond were kind of exploiting that space on either side of our midfield pivot. And by dropping another midfielder lower, we were kind of able to keep that in front of us a little bit more and cut off that release pass into the diagonal pocket, which can just be so dangerous when teams are playing that against you. So those were some like tactical adjustments that I thought were great. We couldn't score, unfortunately, but we also didn't concede, and that's really all that we had to do.
We'll get to that in 1 second. By the way, it dawns on me, I think Vlatko has got one of his assistants just watching our live stream on the sideline.
Taking notes.
Yeah, and we got Jonas Eidval on, which, to be candid, like I lived that game, the second half. By the way, Sam Mewis, just a font of optimism, surging spigot of joy and human wonder. It's honestly, for me, like watching a game of football. I said this on the Twitch with two saints, just like, and then when they talk about Lynn Williams, it's like three saints praising each other. Just like, you're so good. No, you're so gooder. You're even gooder. And then there's me, just like awful, dark, twisted me, just like bare. I experienced that second half very much like I was a dog drinking a cup of coffee, sitting at a table while the room was on fire, and I'm turning around to you and just saying, everything's fine. That's how I experienced it. But I do think, I mean, it's very clear. So in that reality, we've got the two of you just vibing, positive, so upbeat. There's me just like trying to repress, to be candid. In your company, I try and repress and not manifest dark thoughts. Sam, I really do. You've got me to that point where I'm trying to have radical joy too and meet you there. By the way, having radical joy is really not meeting you there because you're in some other place. You're in just even higher than radical joy. But then on comes to that madhouse, Jonas Eidval. It was like suddenly someone unleashed a PhD lecture on rocket science in a human mass of just chaos. And he came on very calmly, gave us 5 minutes of wisdom. But that 5 minutes of wisdom, Vlatko clearly watched and then executed.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
It was amazing.
It was, and it did. But at the same time, that final pass wouldn't come. It felt. At times we were just running at our opponents, hoping to make crap happen. That final pass, that final little moment of quality wasn't there. We looked leggy. We looked tired. It was almost at times as if the US women were playing that game at 3 a.m. right along with us. You understood the Vlatko Sonnet substitution, the double pivot. You understood the tactical manifestation of that. A lot of fans optically felt like it was like, we're the US. Why are we putting that? Why are we taking Haran off? Why are we putting Sonnet on? Why are we bunkering down for a draw? Why are we locking down to advance with a draw against a debutant, Portugal?
Well, does Lindsay Haran have a yellow? Does anybody know that?
Lindsay Haran is perfect.
Agreed.
Lindsay
but if I'm not sure that she had a yellow card, but if she did, that'd be a great reason to take her off so that you don't lose Lindsay and Rose.
Just the prospect of losing Lindsay and Rose is just leaving me utterly bereft. And then what, Sam?
Well, and then I think I would just say, like, I feel like I understand the fans wanting to go for the win. Of course we do. Like, I totally understand that. The girls everybody wants to go for the win all the time. I think there is a moment in a game where you can make a tactical adjustment to solidify moving on to the next round. And I can't fault that either. I think Vlatko's job is to get out of the group stage. And so far, we've done that. It might not be in the way that everybody wants to see. It might not be in the fun, flashy way that we're used to. I can't fault it until something really changes. You know what I mean? It's so difficult for me to fault that because we're in the round of 16.
God, yes, Lindsay Haran did have a yellow. There is a rationale, but it's not time for rationale. Let's be emotional. Let's go overboard. Let's go bonkers into extra time. Honestly, a moment still.
God.
Yes, Sam, right. It's still emotionally so searing. It's hard to even talk about it.
It is. It's hard to talk about.
It was a national trauma. I mean, Anna Capetta, a woman who just subbed in, was quicker to the ball than our back line, ran in on goal, spanked a low, thumping drive from the edge of the area that you saw coming before she pulled her foot back, and then you just prayed. You just prayed that Alyssa Nair had it, but Alyssa Nair was well beaten, and the ball sped towards the goal. For a second, I'm not crapping you. My whole life flashed before my eyes.
Oh my God.
Oh, stop it. Oh my.
Oh my God, you guys.
Oh.
Everything.
Wow.
All of it. All the important things. Being born, my schooling, moving to America, meeting my wife, 4 kids, Everton, crap, the whole bloody time. And then meeting you, Sam Mewis, for lunch and saying, let's do this. That was the last thing I saw. And then Dr. Joe was standing over me being like, don't worry, I got this. I'm Dr. Joe. Whole life flashed before my eyes. But that ball, an inch to the left. And my God, it would have been darkness, but it hit the post. It spanked the post. It rebounded forever. The darkness that would have descended if it was just an inch to the left. I can't even imagine. I honestly escaped from this moment with just one adult soiled pair of pants. You said something amazing. You're like, in game, it wouldn't have even have registered. It wouldn't have even phased you, would it?
Well, I think if that happens to your team in a game and you become that close to being knocked out of the tournament, you just go, well, it didn't happen. And I have 4 more minutes to play or however long. And I have to just forget about it until later. And then after the game, you go, holy shit, did that really just happen? Did that really just hit the post? It was so wild. And I think when we realized the Netherlands were so far ahead, we were like, okay, we're probably not going to win this game 4-0. It's the 85th minute at this point. The Netherlands are winning 7-0. But we need a goal anyway, just to ensure, for insurance purposes. Because imagine if that had gone in. So I'm going to pretend like I'm still a player and I'm just going to forget all about it.
Repression and delayed trauma. That's what I love about your approach to life. Repression and delayed trauma. And that was it. We held on 0-0 and we really held on. A stunning night. It felt like a massive, massive, massive reality check. The best chance of the night fell to the Portuguese. We were so close to doomsday, America. We ultimately, you can make the case, we were so bloody lucky. Portugal, if we're being honest, were the better team on the night. We'd lived the Netherlands game, which thanks to Lindsay Horan was a draw that felt like in that second half edged towards a win. This was a draw that honestly felt like a black eye of a loss. Even as we advance, we have life. We have life, America. We have life. We also have a yellow to Rose, a second yellow taking her out the round of 16 game, but we move. It's the first ever time the United States has not won 2 or more group games at a World Cup. We'll talk about that in a second, but we do need to acknowledge in this moment, huge praise for Portugal. Watching their team in their circle at the final whistle, there were tears. They felt they had this. They felt this was going to be the greatest, and arguably they should have done. There were tears, but what an audacious performance. You know, their federation has only just started investing in their women's team. They've got a project to get 75,000 women playing football or beach football by 2030. 75, that's what their goal is. That's where they are as a program. They're investing real money. They have a real strategy. And they're investing in their league. I think their league is the only women's league in Europe to use VAR. They are taking it seriously now. They are out. But tonight, I did feel for a minute, I'm not a gracious human being. I'm not a nice person. But I felt such a joy for them and what they'd accomplished tonight, what I hope they'd accomplished throughout this tournament, showing a nation that is football mad, but very, in love with Ronaldo, in love with Figo, in love with Peri Peri Chicken. They showed tonight that their women can ball out. And you think of the thousands of girls across Portugal who will say, I want to be like Jessica Silva now. And it's kind of amazing to project that forward, right, Sam, when you think about it, because they were magnificent tonight, the Portuguese.
Yeah, they really did do a great job. I think that their level that they brought to the game really can't be overstated. I think it's such a reflection of how far the game is coming and how competitive this tournament has been. Like you've said, the U.S. had never been in a situation where they had to win or that they could have been knocked out in this third group stage game. And just to look at our group and see how competitive it was and how difficult it was. It's huge for Portugal. It's huge for women's soccer all over the world. I think it's awesome. And it's just, I mean, this tournament is just so exciting, and the World Cup should be hard.
Oh, it was honestly, from the American perspective, equally astonishing to see the scenes at the final whistle. Poor Rose Lavelle in tears at the final whistle. Kelly O'Hara hugging her. She later said, I told Rose, I just wanted her to know how much her presence on the field had an impact. Her energy, her fight, her aggressiveness, and just her flair. Everything about her was huge for us, and I never want her to forget that. But no Rose for the next game for the United States, almost certainly against Sweden. What does that mean? A roseless, Lavelle-less United States?
Well, we've seen it a few times this tournament. I mean, she didn't start either of the first two games because of her injury. And we have some people who can fill the role. Obviously, there's nobody in the world like Rose. Every player on this US team has something really, really special about them that is irreplaceable. Rose is just a special, special case. So we're going to miss her so much. I mean, just the way that she was breaking pressure in this game today against Portugal, breaking through the midfield and exploiting that space in front of the back line on the dribble. She has a great final pass. Her shot is so dangerous. She has great service on set pieces. Like you said, that flair, that aggressiveness, her mentality to win is so clear and obvious. So we, of course, will miss Rose in this next game. Her presence will always be there, though. You know, she'll be training. She'll be helping the girls get ready for the game. She'll be cheering them on. And I do think that we have some pieces on the bench that even we haven't seen yet. I think Savannah DeMello is a great option. I think Ashley Sanchez, Christy Mewis are great options. I'm really interested in the way we change to the midfield, playing with two pivots instead of one. Something like that could come in handy. We could see just a new setup.
Can you describe what that in layman's terms, Sam? I think it's really important. The two pivots, what does that allow us to do in the midfield that we're not doing?
Well, I think for one, defensively, it's a little bit more security back there, especially against teams with dangerous attacking players. I think today in particular, it was there to help against that we were mismatched in the midfield because they had 4 in their diamond and we only played with 3. So by putting 2 6s in, you kind of are keeping more of the play in front of you instead of having to chase back or getting the ball played in behind our 6. I'm not sure what will work best against Sweden. I can imagine that could be a good idea. And I just think offensively, we're getting our players facing the field with the ball because we're lower on the field. So a player like Andy Sullivan or Lindsay Horan faced up with the ball with the ability to distribute everywhere instead of checking back to the ball. Their back is now turned on their forwards, unless you're Rose Lavelle, is maybe a way of distributing passes out wide or up to the 9 better like we've seen when we're playing at our best.
At the final whistle, the US circle, it was really fascinating. First person to speak, it wasn't a coach, it was Kelly O'Hara in that circle. I mean, she is the most competitive. Ultimately, she's a warrior on the field, but, taken definitely to bring the winning code from the OGs and to bring that. And she spoke first ferociously in that circle. You saw it screaming at a team. I asked Becky on the stream what she would have said in that circle. She said, we'll probably play Sweden, who beat us in the 2011 World Cup, 2021 Olympics, 2016 Olympics, really a bogey team. Probably play Japan after that. And Becky's words were, great, let's do this. That is the reality. Just get ready for it. We have a rich footballing history against them. Let's do it. What would you have been saying after this game? To yourself and to each other?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to not feel a little bit of that kind of external disappointment. Obviously, the girls aren't on Twitter or hearing anybody's criticisms of them right off the bat, but I think you get a feeling when you play really well and you get a great result and you feel really good about it. And I think you get a little bit of a feeling when you tie or you lose and the game is really close and you didn't finish your chance or you let something happen that you didn't want to. I think that coming together in that moment, doing what Kelly did is so vital to just remind everybody that this was not a one-off game. This is a tournament. We're moving on. We have to go and just win our next game. leave this behind. This feeling of isolation or annoyance or frustration, we have to just drop it or use it as motivation for the next game. I think they're going to watch clips. They're going to learn from this. They're going to focus on things that they can change and improve on. I think the team has such high standards for itself. But I love that Kelly came in and was like, let this go. Nobody's frowning. We're moving on and it's fine. And I love that she did that. I think it's really important.
I mean, yeah, on the stream, you're like, yes, we're closers. And then you said, to be the best, you got to beat the best. Woo! The woo I'm adding just
what a
in
cheerleader I am.
You admit, is it only when I read your comments back to you that you realize
Did
this?
I say that?
Yeah. To be
Wow.
the best. It's like I mean, we would have been a great wrestling tag team.
Yeah.
By we, I mean you and Becky Sauerbrunn.
Yeah.
But I've got to ask you, I'm fascinated by the mentality of the players after this one. And you also talked together about knockout football at the World Cup is different. These footballers know that. The US women know it better than anybody. You played it, Sam. What is that difference? Can you describe it to us, mere mortals?
It's just heightened intensity. The idea that your whole tournament could end with a loss is pressure. You have to perform under this pressure. And I think the most important and critical thing that the U.S. women's national team has is experience playing under pressure. We train under pressure. We train at such a high level. You're fighting for your spot every day. So to turn around and come into this and be like, okay, now we're just fighting for our spot in the next round. It's not totally unfamiliar, even to the World Cup rookies. So the knockout games are higher stress, higher pressure, but we have this little bit of World Cup experience now. And I think that the U.S. women's national team is more prepared to play under pressure than probably any other country, just because of how intense training and just trying to be on the team is.
God, pressure pushing down on me. I keep hearing that when you speak about that boom, 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 bada boom, 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 bada boom, boom. You know, God, it is really something to see Carly Lloyd go off post game, talking about how she felt when she retired, things were changing and the culture and the mentality. She said the importance of meaning used to come from winning. It now comes from what comes from winning. Throwing real fire at really the young players in this team. It's the young players that we need to step up right now in every regard. For me, it is that this World Cup was meant to be about teams closing the gap. There's some things we can control as a United States. There's some things we can't. And we always thought that the gap would be closed by, the Frances, the Netherlands, the Englands, the Spains. They were the ones that would catch us. Really, this World Cup has been about the Jamaicas, the Haitis, the Colombias smiting Germany magnificently, confidently, with a game plan, executing that game plan. Portugal, magnificent tonight. Watching magnificent football all across the globe. And when you project that forward, that growth between this World Cup and the last one, just the immense level of competition that the women's game will witness, from an American perspective, I'll say gulp, like the era of givens and domination and easy, world domination it's going to be closed, but it's going to be closed across the board. And as a lover of games, as a lover of the women's game, as a lover of the rise of the women's game, just incredible days, incredible dreams for many, many nations await. But what is your big takeaway from this performance as we look down into the round of 16 to come?
Yeah, I think my big takeaway is that the U.S. women's national team is like bred to face adversity. I feel like we're doing that. I feel like we're like weathering this storm. I don't think we've played what we're capable of playing like yet. Part of that is just a reflection of how far the rest of the world is coming, and that's a good thing. But I think in these moments, this is all a test. As good as we're gonna do in this tournament, as far as we're gonna make it, it's kind of on us. And so I'm really excited to see how the team responds to this little bit of adversity, this little bit of external criticism. It's not new to them, but this is like a huge moment and a huge opportunity to kind of continue on with the journey of the U.S. women's national team and say, we're just going to keep going. We're just going to keep pushing and we're going to get through one game at a time.
The Christy Mewis World Cup is just about to dawn upon us. Vlatko, if you're listening. But I want to end with a toast. Raising my shot of Jägermeister, this bolt of human emotion in a shot glass, to this wet hot summer of American soccer. As analyst Joe Pompliano pointed out yesterday, it's been a banana stretch of football here in the United States over the last couple of weeks. From 4-tier Welsh clubs drawing 50,000 fans in North Carolina, 82,000 for El Clasico in Texas, record-breaking ratings for US women's national team games in the World Cup. Everything's trending upwards as we tick off the months to World Cup 2026. There's just never been a better time to be a fan of the women's game, of the lesser men's game in the United States, and we should never take a moment of it for granted. Sam Mewis, I am so bloody sorry you are feeling a little bit unwell. I'm going to send resources up there, but bloody hell, thank you.
Thanks, Rog.
To you, big love. America, courage. Listen to the full version of this podcast and all our podcasts wherever you get your pods. But first, subscribe here for more Men in Blazers videos and courage.